Okay guys, went out this morning and we shot a couple squirrels. Got a nice big red there and a small gray. Got a fire going on over here to make some hot chocolate. And we're going to talk about skinning this squirrel out today. We're going to take this red squirrel. I've had quite a few questions about skinning a squirrel if I want to keep the hide. So I thought maybe instead of just ripping the pants and shirt off of him and cooking the meat up, today we'd actually skin this squirrel out so some of our younger viewers that want to do that can see how it's done. One of the things that I was asked on yesterday's video was about this titanium pot that I showed in the video yesterday and how it would nest with the Pathfinder bottle. It nests pretty good. There's a little bit of space in there, but probably only 1/8 of an inch all the way around, so it nests in there really well actually. Now you're not going to be able to nest a stove on the bottom of that because it's bigger around. Well, you could nest it partially, but you're not going to be able to nest it all the way up on there. It's just not big enough around for that because it's made for the Pathfinder cup. But what I do is my Pathfinder cup has got the handles taken off of it, and I just use a bail in there, a fish mouth spreader for a bail. And it does actually fit inside of that pot nice and snug. And then I can nest the Pathfinder bottle on that, nest a stove on top of that flat cap, and then put the lid on the bottom, and that makes a pretty nice nested cook set for me. That's got a stove, a lid, a bottle, and 2 different cooking containers. So that works pretty good for me. But if you wanted to, you could just nest the bottle in there easy enough, put the stove on top, put the lid on the top or in the bottom of your carrier for your bottle, and you'd be good to go, and you'd accomplish the same thing minus the 1 container. Like I said, I took the handles off of this one a long time ago. I wouldn't expect you to go ripping the handles off your Pathfinder cup. But if your handles are not on your Pathfinder cup, it does nest in there just right, just like that. So that answers that question. I'm going to use this titanium pot again today to make some hot chocolate in while I'm doing the skinning of the squirrel. So I thought I'd get that set up real quick on the squirrel cooker over the fire and get that going while we wait. What I would do first with a squirrel is I would just pull out the sharpest knife I've got, which in my case probably would be just a quick little pocket knife. You don't want something too big. You want something fairly small for this job. And I would come in here and open him up and get my money cut done first. He's got a little bigger rigor mortis setting in there. Okay, so let's just get a sharp knife and make our money cut. In other words, we're going to cut from the heel straight down all the way to the vent. And we're going to do that on both sides. Once we've accomplished that cut on both sides, we're going to wring the legs real quick right here, just like this. We'll just come up here and we'll wring it over on both sides, just like that. And we'll do the other leg the same way. Just like that. We just have to walk around there and make sure that we got our cut all the way through, so that we can strip that down off the meat, just like any other 4-legged critter. Just like this. Once we can shuck that meat off, or that skin I should say, off the leg like that, then we'll just go around with this and separate everything with our hands. And we'll do the same thing on the other leg. Okay, now once you've got that stripped off both legs, just come in here and connect that cut right there to separate the belly fur from the rest. And pull that loose, just like that. Now what you've got is you've got a separation here. Trying to do this in my lap probably ain't the best thing in the world, but that's okay. All right. Now we can start to pull this back here on both sides off of the haunches there. And if you get a little bit of meat on there, you can pull it separate. You can separate it easy enough with your hands. And then get back behind here and separate that skin where the tail's at right there, just like that. Now you've got everything separated, and you can make a tail slit right there and start getting that tail to come off. And lay that thing on a hard object, face up, like this, and just slice it with your knife, straight down. Separate it as you go. That will help it to pull off the tail easier when the time comes to strip the tail. You see how that's coming straight out of there? Boom. Pulled that straight out. Now we've got the tail off. And we can start to shuck him a little bit. Now, this is where the gambrel is going to come in. And there's a few pieces of shot in this guy. But they're right at the surface of his skin for the most part. They're not... Okay, so I just tied his legs with 2 slip knots. Went over the top of a log above me, cross beam here, and just put a lark's head in that. And that's going to hold him in place. And now I can work the hide like I would any other hide to pull it down. You can see we've got it pretty well down already before we even put it up here. But this is going to help you be able to put pressure on it to pull it down. Now if you rope skin this thing and you put a rope on here, that would work just fine too. But you're going to find probably that when you do that, it's going to pull pretty hard. And you don't want that. But you do want a good sharp knife for this. You get down to those shoulders, and then you're going to be able to pull it out a lot easier. Okay, one thing that we didn't talk about real quick, once you get down to these shoulders, if you've cut the feet off, it's going to come out a whole lot easier. If you didn't cut the feet off because you're trying to save the feet for some reason, it's not going to come out of there near as easy. But you can work your fingers right into those sockets, right there, and then just pull that straight off once you get to those shoulders. You should be able to do the same thing on the other side when you get down to it as well. You can see he's been hitting that shoulder. Yeah, he's got a broken leg right there, probably where he fell out of the tree or where he was hit, one of the two, but we'll be able to get it out of there. Just going to be a little bit more work than the other one was, that's all. Okay, so once you get that other leg pulled, then you can just yank it straight out as well. And you can see there's a hole in the hide right here. I'm not sure if, there's another hole right here where there was a pellet that hit him in the head. When I pulled this, it stretched this hole a little bit. So saving his head may not be a very easy task at this point because he's got a couple of holes in his head, but we'll continue on for the sake of purpose anyway. So let's get underneath here and kind of pull this down. Looks like his whole head's going to come off of here. That's what's going to happen. So we may not be able to save this head. And that's fine. We'll just turn it inside out and we'll cut the head off because we got a bad spot right there anyway in the head. But we still got all of the fur and the tail, both legs. We're just not going to have the head because of those holes where he was shot. Okay, so I took this guy over to a stump and just cut that head off. Let's turn this fur. We'll have to split this tail. Well, let's turn this fur inside, right side out again for a minute here. You'll see what we've got. We've got just a tube basically. Now, for me, if I were trying to do something with this hide, talking to younger viewers here, and I wasn't going to make a pouch or something where I needed that tube, I would go ahead and split this hide because it's going to make it a whole lot easier in the preserving process anyway to go ahead and do that. See where his other leg's at here. Okay. Oh, there's his other leg right there. Okay, so there's his legs and his cape, and there's basically the tube that we've got, and then his tail. And we'll split that tail out a little bit. But you can see there's not a whole lot to a squirrel hide. So it's going to take several of those to make anything unless you're just trying to make a pouch. Now, if you've got some blood on the fur and things like that, you want to take this down right away and wash it. Maybe that's not as important for a hide you're not going to sell, but for a more expensive hide like a fox or a coon or something like that you're trying to sell, you'd want to wash the blood off of that hide right away. In this case, we shouldn't be too worried about that. We're going to go ahead and split this thing up the middle and flesh it out. It won't take anything to flesh this guy out, and then it'll be ready to start preserving. Well, that's all pretty easy stuff right there, guys. I know I still got blood on my hands, but that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. I'll stir up my hot chocolate here and get warmed up a little bit, and then we'll go over here to the fleshing beam real quick and we'll split that hide open and flesh it out. Okay guys, I don't have my smock on or anything here. There's not a whole lot to a squirrel because there's not a whole lot of fleshing you've got to do, and if you don't have a fleshing knife, you could very easily just use the split open cannon bone of a deer if you wanted to, but all you're really trying to do is just scrape the fat off and any excess meat that you have. Like I said, squirrel hide's pretty tough. It's pretty resilient, so it's kind of hard to tear it unless you've already put a hole in it, like from a bullet or something like that. Then it's going to be a little easier to get it to tear. But if you don't have any bullet holes in it and you got a nice smooth fleshing beam, you'll get the stuff off pretty quick and it won't be a major deal at all. Now let's split this tail. All we're going to do is just lay that tail down facing down and stick our knife blade in there and put a straight slit straight up in that dude. And again, you're going to want a good sharp knife for this. In regular animals, you're going to have to do some fleshing in the tail. In a squirrel, there's probably not going to be enough in there that you're going to have to worry about it as far as the fleshing goes. There probably won't be enough meat in there to have to worry about it. But you do want to strip it down and strip it open so that it can dry properly. Okay, so once we've done all of that and we've got it stripped out and ready to go, now we just want to dry it out basically, which means we want to stretch it somewhere and dry it. So for this type of hide, I would wash it real quick if that's what you're going to do, if you're worried about the blood stains, and then I would get this thing tacked down to something where it can't get walked off with and get it up a little bit off the ground and let the hide start to dry. Now if you're going to process it right away and try to brain tan it or something like that, you could go ahead with that process before drying it. But if you're going to put this hide up for a little while because maybe you're trying to make some moccasins and you want to wait till you get 8 or 10 of these hides to do that, then you can put it up and dry it. Okay guys, what I wanted to do today real quick was just get through skinning that animal as if we were going to try to preserve the hide in a raw hide state. We're just going to let it dry. There's a multitude of ways you could tan a hide like this, from buying solutions to natural alternatives. I've done videos about different types of tanning on my channel already. But I wanted to show for my younger viewers how to skin this squirrel out to preserve the hide, to make something out of it. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your views. I appreciate everything you do for me, for my school, for my family. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks guys.